celebrations to kick off at the end of May. A total of 45,489 people still remain at flood relief centres in 3 states as at 8 a.m. today, with Johor having the highest number of evacuees. Now in Johor, the number of flood evacuees increased again to 44,937 this morning, compared to 43,667 recorded at 8 p.m. yesterday. The State Disaster Management Committee, or JPBN, in a statement said a total of 12,730 families were still housed at 172 relief centres in 5 districts. Batu Pahat remained the worst affected district with a total of 39,737 evacuees, followed by Muar, 2,785, Tangkak 1,662, Segamat 706 and Mersing 47. Now, 8 rivers still exceed the danger level, including Sungai Batu Pahat at the Bekok Dam at 19.7 metres, Sungai Muar in Bukit Kepong at 4.33 metres, and Sungai Senggarang in Batu Pahat at 3.53 metres. In Malacca, the number of evacuees at 5 relief centres in Jasin this morning had dropped to 380 from 438 last night. In Pahang, the number of flood evacuees in Rompin remained unchanged from the 172 last night, with 62 of them were staying at SK Kampung Aur, while another 110 people at SK Leban Condong. The National Unity Week celebration will kick off in Kuching at the end of May. National Unity Minister Datuk Aaron Agong Dagang said the week-long grand celebration would be launched just ahead of Gawai Day on the 1st of June and would involve all states.
Dan di semua negeri kita akan adakan sambutan Minggu Perpaduan. It's Unity Week, we call it. Unity Week. Dan banyaklah program besar-besar disediakan masa itu dari pihak negeri yang dimana kita akan adakan. Pelancaran kalau di Sarawak Mei, 20 Mei itu berdekatan dengan hari perayaan Gawai lah di Sarawak. Kita akan pergi ke Sabah, pergi ke Johor, Pulau Pinang dan semua state akan mengadakan sambutan hari perpaduan.
He said the celebration would see various events like the Unity Gallery program being implemented through the 3 main clusters of Splendour of Nationhood, Rahmah Community Program and Splendour of Unity. The Unity Gallery program is aimed at enhancing the spirit of unity through activities portraying the uniqueness of the various customs, cultures and races in a fun way. The 3-day program also involves a moment of unity exhibition, cultural performances of various ethnic groups, and Rumah Kami exhibition by various agencies under the ministry. Dato' Aaron said the ministry welcomed the participation of public and private agencies and non-governmental organizations in such activities in the future through strategic collaboration. The proposed Fiscal Responsibility Act, or FRA, will ensure that the country manages its finances better. According to Minister of Economy, Rafizi Ramli, the proposed law would instill good governance on the management of the nation's finances rather than just talking about good governance.
Our problems in the past is basically how we spend our money. And there is a need now to regulate that through a legislation, and that's what Fiscal Responsibility Act is. Of course, the details will come when it's due, and Finance Ministry is working on it. But I think it will send a very strong signal, first to the market at this junction, but also it sets the so-called governance framework for public finances in greater details.
The minister said this after delivering a keynote address at the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants or ACCA Stakeholders Appreciation Reception. Rafizi said that details of the proposed law will be made known once the draft bill is completed by the Finance Ministry. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim had stated the need for the FRA when tabling Budget 2023, saying that the proposed law could be tabled later this year. The event saw some 500 representatives from the finance and accounting fraternity gathering for the first time after a 3-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The event commemorated 86 years of collaboration between ACCA with its strategic partners in helping shape the accountancy profession in Malaysia. At the same time, Rafizi also delivered his message to the community of certified accountants present at the event.
We hold the trust and the responsibility to make sure that everything is done properly. And what I hope that, especially the younger ones, what I hope that you uphold in your entire career for whatever you do. Many of the miseries that we as a country and society had to go through in the last 5, 10 years, and what we have to carry for the next 10, 15, 20 years, would not have happened if we really hold true to that sincerity.
Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Bilal Shah yesterday granted an audience to the outgoing Army Chief General Tan Sri Zamros Muhammad Zain at Istana Negara. Through a post on Istana Negara Facebook, Al-Sultan Abdullah, as the Supreme Commander of the Malaysian Armed Forces, expressed his deepest appreciation and gratitude for Tan Sri Zamros' 43 years of service with the Malaysian Army, which he performed with full dedication and excellence. Tan Sri Zamros, who started his career in the Malaysian Armed Forces on April 25, 1980, has held various key positions, including as the commander of the Eastern Field Command before he was appointed as the 28th Army Chief on the 11th of June 2020. Tan Sri Zamros will hand over his duties to the Deputy Chief of Army, Lieutenant General Datuk Sri Muhammad Abdul Rahman, in a ceremony on the 22nd of March. Coming up, contraband cigarettes with over 1 million ringgit unpaid duties seized in Klang. The Home Ministry's KDN Enforcement and Control Division seized 14,249 copies of the Quran and reading materials which were not approved by the Quran Printing Control and Licensing Board, or LPPPQ, in the Klang Valley, Terengganu and Kelantan in the first 2 months of this year. Now, Division Secretary Nik Yusaimi Yusof said the holy books were seized because the LPPPQ stamp and KDN hologram were not found on the outer cover and the writing did not follow the Uthmani script. Nik Yusaimi explained that there were mistakes identified which may affect the reading accuracy and could lead to confusion. When asked which Al-Quran application has been approved by LPPPQ, he said so far only one has been certified, namely Smart Quran, which was developed by the Department of Islamic Development, or JAKIM, in collaboration with the Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, and KDN. He said the Smart Quran application is error-free as it was reviewed by LPPPQ and had gone through the product certification process, while other applications that are available have not gone through this process. Attorney General Tan Sri Idris Harun said that any decision to lay charges against anyone is based on evidence and facts obtained in investigations and not due to pressure from any quarters or other factors. Now, in dismissing allegations that the Attorney General's Chambers, or HEC, was practicing selective prosecution in recent cases, he said decisions to prosecute were made fairly on the principle of integrity based on evidence in the investigation paper without favouring anyone. On the Attorney General under Article 145, subsection 3 of the Federal Constitution. He also said that the AGC denies allegations that there have been cases of selective prosecution, politically motivated prosecution, and persecution of any individuals who committed offences under any provision of the law. The Attorney General added, if there is information and solid evidence that any individual has committed an offence under any provisions of the law, this individual will be charged in accordance with the law regardless of their status and background. The Negeri Sembilan Customs Department has seized 8,990 cartons of contraband white cigarettes and kretek in a raid on an oil palm plantation in Kampung Air Hitam, Inklang, Selangor. Its director, Muhammad Hafiz Ishak, said the cigarettes seized in the operation at about 3 p.m. on the 22nd of February were worth 144,032 ringgit with unpaid duties of 1.2 million ringgit. He said the customs also confiscated a 3-ton lorry and 14 cars, all worth 338,032 ringgit, believed to have been used by the syndicate involved.
Modus operandi adalah menggunakan lori canvas bertutup dan untuk memindahkan rokok di kawasan terpencil di ladang kelapa sawit menggunakan kenderaan awam bagi mengamburi pihak-pihak berkuasa. Setiap kenderaan ini juga dilengkapi dengan alat khas, ya, ada jammer, ya. Kalau kita tengok ada jammer yang berfungsi untuk menggagalkan sebarang perhubungan komunikasi dan penjajakan yang dibuat oleh anggota penguatkuasaan.
Speaking at a press conference at the department's headquarters, Muhammad Hafiz said no arrests were made because the suspects fled before the arrival of the customs personnel. However, he said the customs believed 15 people were involved in this syndicate, which had been operating for 2 to 3 years. He also said that last year, the Negeri Sembilan Customs seized about 1.5 million sticks of cigarettes worth 177,000 ringgit, with unpaid duties of 1.3 million ringgit in 300 operations in the state. In our foreign segment, Saudi Arabia and Iran agreed to resume diplomatic ties. A bright yellow cargo plane carrying tents, medical equipment and other humanitarian aid landed yesterday in the eastern Congolese city of Goma, the first delivery under an EU scheme to support some of the region's millions of displaced people. Fighting between the Congolese army and the M23, a rebel group claiming to represent the interests of ethnic Tutsis in eastern Congo, has exacerbated an existing humanitarian crisis with over 5.5 million people displaced across several provinces. The European Union last week promised to send aid worth over 47 million euros to North Kivu to support immediate needs such as nutrition, healthcare, water and sanitation, shelter and protection. A second plane with EU-funded supplies is scheduled to arrive next week. Insecurity has spiraled in Congo's volatile east over the past year, partly due to the major comeback of the M23. With regional focus turned to North Kivu, attacks by other groups have also intensified in neighboring Ituri province in recent months. Now, Eastern Congo has struggled with instability and conflicts since the 1990s that have killed millions and given rise to dozens of militias, some of which remain active. Saudi Arabia and Iran yesterday reached a deal which includes the agreement to resume diplomatic relations and reopen embassies and missions within 2 months. Now, the two countries held the talks to solve their differences through dialogue and diplomatic means. According to a joint statement, the talks were also held to abide by the purposes and principles of the Charters of the United Nations and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and to follow international regulations and practices. Both Saudi Arabia and Iran extended their appreciation and thanks to Iraq and Oman for hosting multiple rounds of dialogue between 2021 and 2022. Now, the two countries also thanked Chinese leaders and the Chinese government for hosting, supporting, and contributing to the success of the talks. Saudi Arabia and Iran have agreed to restore diplomatic relations and reopen their embassies and missions within a period not exceeding 2 months and agreed to hold talks between foreign ministers to arrange for the exchange of ambassadors and explore ways to strengthen bilateral relations. Now, fuel deliveries were blocked from French refineries yesterday as workers continue rolling strikes against pension reforms. Now, President Emmanuel Macron, however, refused to meet with unions and said the reform must go ahead. As debate about the reform continued in the Senate, workers blocked fuel deliveries from leaving Total Energies and Esso refineries. So far, the impact has not been major, as there are no lines at gas stations yet, as motorists and fuel station operators anticipated disruptions. In a letter to unions, Macron refused to agree to their request for a meeting, saying that unions had had ample time to negotiate with the government over the past months. He said now was the time for Parliament to review the reform, whose key measure is a 2-year extension of the retirement age to 64. He added that he would not compromise on the need to restore a durable financial equilibrium of the pension system in order to guarantee the pensions of future generations. Cyclone Yaku brought with it heavy rains yesterday, which devastated northern Peru, displacing and isolating hundreds of families. Now, the rains have caused rivers to overflow and left residents of towns such as Lambayeque, Tumbes, and Piura to sort hip-level flooded streets. According to local media, 5 people are missing and 6 died, 4 of them in Piura and 2 in the Lambayeque department. Peru's National Defense Institute warned of landslides risks in 586 districts on the northern coast. According to the National Service of Meteorological and Hydrology, Cyclone Yaku is expected to contribute to the intensification of rains in La Libertad, Limar and Ancash in the coming days. It also stated that the cyclone is not going to become a hurricane, but could rather dissipate as it will move towards the southwest where water temperatures are cooler. On Tuesday, a cyclone with tropical characteristics was reported to be present off the northern and central coast of Peru. Barcelona under fire for alleged referee buying. That and more next in sport. Paris Saint-Germain will submit a bid for the country's largest stadium, the Stade de France, as they look to move from their Parc des Princes home. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo said the Parc des Princes was not for sale, which prompted PSG to say in January that they would explore alternative options for their home stadium. The Ligue 1 champions said they will submit a bid for the Stade de France, but added that their preferred option remains a renovated Parc des Princes. The Parc des Princes, owned by the Paris City Council, has been PSG's home since they entered the top flight in 1974. The lease for the Stade de France is held by a consortium of the French companies Vinci and Bouygues, with any buyout of the stadium set to take place after 2025. The arena opened its doors in 1998, and the venue of the World Cup final that year was won by the hosts. It will also stage track and field events at the Summer Olympics in 2024. PSG have been the most successful club in France since Qatar Sports Investments took over in 2011, winning the league 8 times. They have also had success in France's domestic cup competitions but have failed to win the Champions League. Spanish prosecutors have filed a complaint against Barcelona and two of the La Liga club's ex-presidents over alleged payments to a company owned by a senior refereeing official to influence match results. Now, the public prosecutor's office said yesterday that a judge has yet to decide whether to take up the case. The club allegedly paid over 7.3 million euros between 2001 and 2018 to firms owned by Jose Maria Enrique Negreira, who was vice president of the refereeing committee of the Spanish Football Association in 1993 to 2018. Prosecutors claim that under a secret agreement, Negreira favoured Barcelona in the decisions taken by referees in the games played by the club, as well as in the results of the competitions. The club denied wrongdoing in a statement last month. The complaint focuses on the 2.9 million euros paid between 2014 and 2018 and alleges that Barcelona, with the help of former presidents Sandro Rosell and Josep Maria Bartomeu, reached a confidential verbal agreement with Negreira. It accuses the club, Rosell, Bartomeu, Negreira, and two other former Barcelona officials of corruption in sports, unfair administration, and falsehood in mercantile documents. Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola warned his players to be more careful when out in public after defender Kyle Walker became the subject of a police investigation for allegedly exposing himself in a bar. However, no arrests have been made. Guardiola refused to comment on the matter, saying it was a private issue that would be resolved internally by the club.
A private issue. We solve it internally, speaking with him. Of course, this is not the place to talk about the private situations.
He also firmly reiterated that players must always be on their guard when they step out of the house, as they are subject to being filmed in whatever they do. Guardiola said City will be flying to London rather than taking the train after they took 6 hours to reach their hotel last month ahead of a 1-0 loss to Tottenham Hotspur. Now, blizzards have also wreaked havoc on the motorways, leading to long traffic jams, but Guardiola said they had planned to fly to London beforehand. Let's take a look at tennis. Australian Jordan Thompson held his nerve yesterday afternoon to score a major upset at the 2023 BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells. Now, the 28-year-old defeated second seed Stefanos Tsitsipas 7-6, 4-6, 7-6 in the second round of the season's first ATP Masters 1000 event. The early exit for Tsitsipas ended the Greeks' chances of rising to world number one across the Sunshine Double events in Indian Wells and Miami. It was a second top 10 win for the world number 87 Thompson, who had lost both of his previous meetings against Tsitsipas. The Australian dropped just 2 points on serve en route to the opening set in California, where Tsitsipas struggled to find his best level in the early stages. Although the Greek rallied to level the match and earned a mini break on the first point of the deciding set tiebreak, it was Thompson who held his nerve for a stunning 2-hour, 37-minute victory. Now, Thompson, who defeated Gael Monfils in straight sets in his opening match, is now into the third round in Indian Wells for the first time. His opponent there will be 32nd seed Maxime Cressy or qualifier Alejandro Tabilo. Meanwhile, in another match, Casper Ruud delivered a clinical opening performance to dispatch Diego Schwartzman 6-2, 6-3 yesterday. The Norwegian's serve forehand 1-2 punch proved too much for Diego Schwartzman. After a modest run of results by his high standards across January's Australian swing and in Acapulco last week, Ruud appeared to enjoy the slower conditions in Southern California. Now, with plenty of time to settle behind his huge forehand, the third seed powered 19 winners past Schwartzman en route to an 88-minute victory. The four-time ATP Tour titleist Schwartzman had also arrived at the ATP Masters 1000 event seeking a deep run to kickstart his year after early season struggles. The route is now 4-4 for the year and will look to build on yesterday's win in a third-round clash against qualifier Christian Garin, who raced to a 6-4, 6-love triumph against 29th seed Yoshihito Nishioka. Now, a total of 3.25 million tickets have been sold for next year's Paris Olympic Games in the first sales phase. Now, for the first time in Olympic history, tickets were made available worldwide from a single platform, with tickets sold in packs over 3 weeks in the first phase, which saw fans from 158 countries and regions register for the sale. The French public made up 2/3 of ticket purchases, with 45% of all buyers being women, a relatively high proportion in Olympic history, with Paris 2024 set to be the first ever Olympic Games with equal participation by male and female athletes. Now, for the Olympic Games, a total of around 10 million tickets will be put on sale, and 80% of these will be made directly available to the public via the official ticketing platform. The next phase of sales, dedicated to individual tickets, will begin with a draw registration from the 15th of March to the 20th of April. At the end of 2023 and into 2024, the remaining tickets will be available in real time on a first-come, first-served basis. In addition, a total of 70,000 tickets for the opening ceremony held on the River Seine will be available in the second phase. Final item on cycling, stage 6 of the Paris-Nice cycle race was cancelled yesterday due to adverse weather conditions. Now, organisers made the decision to cancel the stage, citing exceptionally violent winds after the rough weather caused several trees to fall in the region. Reported gusts of up to 100 kilometers per hour had informed an initial decision to shorten the stage to just 80 kilometers in length, with the peloton travelling by bus from Tuves to the new start in La Fontaine d'Aragon. However, organisers later decided not to send the riders out at all for their own safety. This is not the only race impacted by poor weather conditions in Europe yesterday, with 2.5 kilometers cut from the end of the Tirreno-Adriatico stage due to high winds near the finish line. Slovenia's Tadej Pogačar leads the race, which will resume tomorrow with a 143-kilometer stage between Nice and Col de la Cuel. The race is scheduled to resume today. And that's it for updates at noon. In our top story, over 45,000 residents still affected by floods in 3 states. Do tune in to News at 10 coming up later tonight on saluran Berita RTM. You can also stream it via RTM's mobile Click app. I'm Jessica Lee. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later.